Hi, today I'm gonna talk about contractionary monetary policy, how central banks fights inflation. So, what is a contractionary monetary policy? It's when a central bank deliberately slows the economy to bring inflation down. There are three main tools. First, raising interest rates, which makes borrowing more expensive. Second, reducing the money supply, for example, by selling government bonds or raising the reserve ratio. And the third one is the combined effect of the first two main tools slows aggregate demand across the economy. As you can see in the contractionary monetary policy graph, when aggregate demand shifts left, both the price level and real GDP fall. The ultimate goal is to bring inflation back to a target rate, typically around 2%. Here's a step-by-step process. The central bank raises rates, borrowing becomes costly, spending and investment fall, aggregate demand drops, and inflation declines. But there is a trade-off shown by the Phillips curve. There is the inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment as the economy moves from point A to point B. Inflation falls but unemployment rises. The sacrifice ratio measures this cost. How much output we give up for each percentage point of inflation reduction. Now let's take a look on historical example. I chose the US Federal Reserve. The Fed raised 11 times from near zero to 5.5% between March 2022 and July 2023. On the left, you can see inflation peaking at 9.1% in June 2022 and steadily declining to 2.9% by the end of 2024. On the right, the federal funds rate rising sharply from 2021 to 2024. There are three important key stats. Inflation down from 9.1% to 2.9%. Rates up from 0% to 5.5%. And unemployment rising only modestly from 3.6% to 4.1% with no recession. Was the policy effective? On the success side, inflation fell dramatically. There is no recession with GDP continuing to grow and the economy achieved a rare soft landing. On the challenge side, core inflation proved sticky, especially in housing costs and services. Disinflation was partly helped by resolving supply chain issues rather than just monetary policy, and inflation still hasn't reached the 2% target. Overall, the Fed was largely successful in achieving disinflation with little harm to the economy, but the target of achieving 2% of inflation remains difficult. In conclusion, contractionary monetary policy is a primary tool for central banks to use it to combat high inflation. The Fed's 2022 to 2024 campaign brought inflation from 9.1% down to 2.9%, which is a historic achievement. The soft landing outcome challenged expectations of necessary recession. Thank you for your attention.